at worksheet 8.7, which will deal with the law of cosines when doing all of these problems here today. So when I'm looking at the law of cosines, and on these first problems I have to find all of your sides. Anytime I'm trying to find a side, the way I look at the law of cosines is I think of it like this. Side that I'm looking for squared is equal to one of the sides squared plus the other side squared minus 2 times the side times the cosine of the angle. So I know that sometimes you might be going, well, what are these sides? This is the side that you want, and this is the side that makes up the given angle. So to put this in practice, let's take a look at number 1. I'm trying to find side AB. So it's across from angle C, so I'm going to label it little c. So that's the side I'm trying to find. So c squared is going to equal, here are the two sides that make up the angle. So 13 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times those sides, 13 times 29 times cosine of the angle measurement, which is 41 degrees. So now what's really nice is our technology helps us a ton. So what I can do is in my calculator, I got some stuff from earlier chapters in there. So we go 13 squared. So you can go ahead and just type this right into your calculator. So 13 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 13 times 29 times cosine of 41 degrees. Now remember, when you hit enter on this, this is what the square of it is equal, the side squared. So I'm just going to jot that down real quick, 440.94 dot 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 dot. If I take the square root of that, as you'll see here on my calculator, if I go square root, my answer, round to the nearest tenth, 20.99 rounds to 21.0. And that's it for number 1. Continuing right along, number 2, you're going to see me kind of speed this up a little bit. Here I have angle A, and I'm looking for the side across from it because I'm looking for side BC, so that's little a. So A squared is going to equal the sides that make up the angle, 21 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times those sides, 21 times 30 times cosine of that angle, 123 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and type that into my calculator. So, oops, sorry about that. Thought I grabbed the calculator there for a second. So type that in. Sorry, it would, yeah, 21 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 21 times 30 times cosine of 123 degrees. Enter that. I'm going to square root it, but I am going to jot it down here. I kind of do 2 steps at once. So I know my final answer is going to be 45.0. So a squared was about 2027.24 dot 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 dot. A ends up being 45.0. Number 3, moving right along. Look at number 3 here. We're trying to find side BC again, so a little a squared. So a little a squared equals 17 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 17 times 28 times cosine of 91. So a squared equals, this is probably the last one of these I put in my calculator and show you, just for time's sake with it, but I'll still take you through all the steps. So on number 3, 17 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 17 times 28 times cosine of 91 degrees. So I get 1089.61. So 1089.61 dot dot dot. So if I take the square root of that, which I didn't do for you, but I'll go back to it, say, all right, square root of my answer, 33.0. All right, the next one here, what we want to do is find BC again, so we're looking for little a. So a squared equals 9 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 9 times 14 times cosine of 17 degrees. So if I enter that into my calculator, it ends up being 36.01 dot 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 dot. When I take the square root of that, a ends up being 6. So on the next two, I'm going to kind of do that same thing, show you the setup, show you what it should equal so you can check it on your calculator and what the final answer is. So on 5 and 6, on 5, you're looking for little c. So your setup should go like this. C squared equals 12 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 12 times 13 times cosine of 134. So if I enter that correctly into my calculator, I should get C to equal 529.23 dot 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 dot. So C ends up equaling 23.0. So then on number 6, I'm looking also for side AB, or which I like to call little c since it's across from angle C. So C squared equals 20 squared plus 22 squared minus 2 times 20 times 22 times cosine of the angle 95 degrees. So if I enter that into my calculator, ends up being 960.69 dot 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 dot. Take the square root of it, C ends up being 31.0. Now 7, 8, and 9, you're now asked to find an angle. So basically what you're doing on 7, 8, and 9 is you're using the angle formula. Okay? And it's so important to identify the angles. So like on this first one here, I'm trying to find angle A. So if we take that formula up top, what we're basically doing is we're taking this formula up top and getting the cosine by itself. Right? So as we showed you in class, when we did that, to find angle A, you actually do cosine of A, and it equals the following relationship. You square the two sides that make up the angle. So 6 squared plus 9 squared, then you subtract the side across from the angle, minus 14 squared, divided by 2 times the two sides that make up the angle. Now, when I do this on my calculator, the most important thing to do is to do it step by step and not all at once. So I figure out what the top equals. So I take 6 squared plus 9 squared minus 14 squared in my calculator, and I get negative 79. 2 times 6 times 9 is 108. Since I'm looking for an angle, we do the inverse. So I go cosine inverse on both sides. That will give me angle A to equal 137.0 degrees. And to show you that, I take out my calculator here. So since I'm finding an angle, we're doing the inverse trig functions. So second cosine of negative, you got to use that negative sign down there. Don't use the subtraction sign, which I know some of you still might do. It gives me my angle 137.01 to the nearest tenth, 137 degrees. Now, numbers 8 through 10 is actually a two-step process. The first thing you have to do is find your third side. So like on this one here, I have to find the side across from little a before I can use this angle formula. So first thing I'm going to do is find a. So a squared is equal to 17 squared plus 22 squared minus 2 times 22 times 17 times cosine of 143 degrees. So when I plug that into my calculator, my a squared should be 1370.379 ... My a should end up equaling about 37.0. Now again, my goal here is to actually find angle B. So I needed to find this third side to help me do it so that I can do it just like number 7. So cosine of angle B in this case is equal to the two sides that make up the angle. So 22 squared plus 37 squared minus the side across from the angle, 17 squared, divided by 2 times the two sides that make up the angle. So now, when I plug those values in, cosine of B, the top part ends up being 1564. The bottom part ends up being 1628. So when I cosine inverse this for both sides, my angle B, so again, what I'm doing is I'm going cosine inverse, and I get my angle B to be 16.1 degrees. I should realize that it's going to be a small angle since angle A is 143 degrees, which is almost 180. All right, let's do the last two problems quickly here. That doesn't want to move up for me. There we go. All right, so to find angle A, I first actually have to find side C. So C squared equals 28 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 28 times 29 times cosine of 52 degrees. So when I plug that into my calculator, I get 625.16 ... So C ends up being 25.0. So now I want to find angle A. So cosine of angle A is equal to the two sides that make up the angle. So it's going to be 25 squared plus 28 squared minus the side across from the angle, 29 squared, all over 2 times the two sides that make up the angle I'm looking for. So again, if I go cosine inverse, I'll have cosine, I apologize, I kind of jumped ahead here, but cosine of angle A is equal to, the top part will be 568, the bottom part will be 1400. So now when I do cosine inverse, I get angle A to equal 66.1 degrees. All right, the last one here, same process again, since I'm trying to find angle C, I actually have to find little b first. So little b squared is equal to the two sides that make up the angle, so 24 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times those sides times cosine of the angle. The angle is 101 degrees. So b squared, if I plug that into my calculator, ends up being 1682.62 ... So b ends up equaling about 41.0. So now I want to find angle B. So cosine of angle B is equal to, again, the two sides that, oh, I apologize, I want to find angle C. Let's cross that out and call it angle C. So this is the angle I'm trying to find. So the two sides that make up the angle, so 29 squared plus the 41 squared minus the side across from it, which is, sorry, I wrote 28 squared there, but it should be 24 squared, divided by 2 times 29 times 41. So again, this here should be a 24. So if I enter those in right, cosine of angle C equals, the top number should be 1946. The bottom number will be 2378. Or sorry, 78. So now, cosine inverse, and you'll get angle C to be 35.1 degrees. All right, so that ends page 1.